Hello and welcome to Clearing the Haze Podcast. I'm your host, Chuck Martin. And today we're continuing with our NDASA Board of Trustee nominee interviews. And today I am honored to have Dean Klassy with me. Dean, I have known for quite a few years now. He was my first instructor to certify me to be able to do urine drug testing. And it was very interesting for me to be able to not only be in his class, but to listen to how he instructed and to see the sincerity that he had in his teaching, but also the passion that he had. And Dean, this has been something you and I've been talking about for quite a while. So I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Dean, I want to go ahead and get started. I value your time, and I know that this is something that you've been looking forward to doing too, to be able to share your knowledge, expertise with our audience and stuff like that. So I guess the first thing I need to ask is I know who you are and we're friends. And so I would like to give you the opportunity to provide an overview of your experience, your background in the drug and alcohol screening industry, and also any relevant industry affiliations or certifications you want to let us know about.
All right. I had a very interesting start in the business. Back in 1989, I was doing scenic airplane rides. And all of a sudden, Department of Transportation and the FAA started talking about this drug testing thing. I went to a competitor of mine, and he was going to charge me $1,000 for one guy to manage the program. And he just didn't want to deal with small guys. So I went home, told my wife, I said, guess what? We're going to start a business to help small businesses. And she goes, huh? So as the years progressed, we were one of the first FAA-approved consortiums in the Midwest. Yes, FAA did have FAA-approved consortium up through, I think, 2000 or right around that time. After about 23 years, my wife and I sold our business. She had 51% of the ownership because she got more points on contracts as a minority than I do as a vet. So I interviewed with a job for in New Mexico for a drug testing program administrator, which is an in-house program. During my interview, I asked them where they got the job description because as a drug testing program administrator, there's not really a very good description of what we do. And during the interview, they said, I remember pulling it off the web. I went to this association and found what I needed, what a drug testing program should do. So I said, where did you find that? She goes, the Drug Testing Association or something. So come to find out that I wrote my own job description for years in the future, because what they did is they took my description in, as far as TPA goes, as the drug testing administrator. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Currently, I oversee 18,000 employees, mostly HHS and DOE regulated. I was a charter member of DASA, chairman of the board for 8 years. As I say, they had to change the rules and put time limit in just to get rid of me. After that, I stayed on with DASA, did a lot of training, did a lot of other committees. In 2023, they asked if I would be the treasurer of DASA. And so I was back on the board. And it just so happened to coincide with talks in regards to the merger with NDASA. Once the NDASA merger happened, I still continued with NDASA, helped with education, and been very active in that education. I'm a medical review officer assistant or staff, TPA or CTPA, a VAT, a DER, and I'm on the education and mentorship committees, and an associate state affiliate. I jumped right into helping NDASA out.
You've got many hats there, but you have the experience and also the ability to train people in those areas. As long as you've been doing this, it's incredible. You've got quite a history, and it's very gratifying to see somebody of your stature wanting to continue to give back to the industry and to be able to do the things that you're doing. So I want to thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. I enjoy that. And I've always enjoyed giving back.
Sure. Dean, what motivated you to pursue a position on the board of directors for NDASA, and what do you hope to achieve if you're elected?
I think I've said this for a few years now is where I sit in my career or in life. I want to give back to the industry that gave me so much over the years. 23 years as a business owner, 12 years in the position I am now. That's a couple of years. So I want to really give back to the industry and see if I can make a difference. I know my history has made a difference. I've met millions of people and many friends throughout that process. As a board member, I have the opportunity to bring in historical information, what things have worked in the past, what we've tried, but didn't work very well, and why the things are the way they are today. I've always been a very proud member of any of the associations I belong to. I like getting very involved in that. I like to become a driving force of NDASA and the drug testing industry, like I have been for many years. And to really help people in their business continue to grow.
It's got to be interesting. You brought up the point just a second ago about the history of it. I think that here in talking not only to yourself, but some other people that are also nominees that are running for this as well, you would have such a place in our industry history, just being a historian, being able to talk about some of this stuff, because we have a lot of growth going on in our industry, and that is as well as I do with everything that we're experiencing right now. And a lot of times it gets lost in translation where people don't really know where this came from or why we do this, other than we've just always done it this way, where we have individuals like yourself that can say, yeah, but this is why, and be able to give that clarification. So I think that's pretty cool.
And I enjoy that because in most of my training for consortium and third-party administrators, I want them to understand where we started and what happened and why. I think that helps them get the big picture, why the industry is here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to have a beginning, and we need to understand that because it's relevant to what we do. It's why we do what we do. It's refreshing to know that we have somebody of your stature that is able to give those answers, because you know what? I've been doing this for a while, but I don't have all the answers. And sometimes people will ask me something, and then I have to refer to people like yourself that are able to give me that answer, but also take the opportunity to educate me as well. So Thank you for doing that. You, with the time that you've been doing this in the industry, you have a lot of instructor certifications. There's quite an impact that you've been able to make in this industry in being able to help people get involved, get started, and things like that. What are the most pressing issues or challenges facing the drug and alcohol screening industry today? And how do you propose that the board of directors address this?
I think what I'm going to say is, and it has always been, is the industry lacks knowledge, education, training. I think it's very important that we go out and understand that we train collectors. We understand we train BATs or TPAs or that type of thing. But it's not only that. It's like we have to go out and talk to the legislatures like NDASA Board did a couple weeks ago. So education is not just internal, it's external as well. And meeting other associations, other organizations, getting them to understand what we are and what that industry is and why we need to keep the industry the way it is. Safety is important for everybody. Everybody would like their loved ones to come home at night. And so I think that's one of my biggest issues, and I think it's always been a big issue, is to get everybody on board, follow the rules, understand the rules. And it doesn't matter what mode you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're doing DOT or non-DOT. I think it's very important that they're all educated. And especially with HHS and DOT coming out with different metrics. Right now, we're working on oral. Who knows if hair is going to come out? Who knows if breath is going to come out? And who knows what else can come out? We never thought oral fluid was going to happen for drug testing. And here we sit today.
Yeah, they've said that hair testing has been approved, but that's about as far as you've seen it, and it just has not progressed in getting it out to all of us. It's amazing to see all these things, but you mentioned that we had been back in Washington, D.C. For our advocacy day. And one of the main things that we were trying to express to people when we were there was the need for a safety carve out, that it is something that our employers want and they need, and it's something that we need as a community for safety. And I don't know, would you mind talking about a little bit about a safety carve out and why that is so crucial to have?
One of the big things, and I try not to get into discussions on Facebook or anything else, but when somebody says we want to have everybody be able to smoke whatever they want to do, I say, would you like your doctor, your surgeon to be smoking a joint before they come in and see you? Would you like the pilot that's flying you from A to B, or that truck driver that's coming up behind you, barreling up on you, be under the influence of something? And they say, of course not. Then you don't want everybody to have that opportunity to be influencing drugs or alcohol. And so getting that carve out is so important to make sure that we're safe, make sure that all of the public is safe, traveling public and that type of thing. Because if they do approve something that is across the board, we may end up seeing our pilots that are flying high besides the airplane. So I think that's really where it comes down to, is protecting us. And I think in the drug testing industry, we have a very different kind of issue to look at, importance to be able to put into the industry, and an ability that nobody else has to really make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it was amazing to be able, and I know that you've done this before too, so you're going to be able to relate to this, and that is going and talking to these individuals that are going to be making those decisions on these bills and the things that are coming before our Senate and Congress to be able to pass. They had no clue on a lot of this stuff, Dean. It just shocked me. But at the same time, it was very interesting to see the reaction to some of the things that we were bringing to them. And especially the organization, one of the things that Chairman Greer had shared with us before we even started was to remember, look, we're not, as an industry, taking a stance saying that you need to ban marijuana medically or otherwise. That's not what our position is. Our position is that these employers that we go in on a day-to-day basis to help maintain the safety of our communities and also their workplace should have the ability to decide whether they want impairing drugs to be in their workplace or not. And if they choose to do that, then they choose to do that. But we're allowing people to make those decisions themselves. We're just in a position where we're having to go and take and provide the services to help these businesses stay compliant. And I thought that was an interesting perspective, because we all have our personal views on these things.
Yeah.
And it was very refreshing to see how he explained that to us, that, look, you may have your personal feelings on that, and that's great. But remember what our purpose is in this. It's not about us personally as much as it is the industry as a whole. So I thought that was very interesting.
And we've had the opportunity in the industry to make a difference and what goes on. I remember many years ago, Mary Bernstein used to be the DOT head. She was a very short lady, but feisty as heck. And I was chairman of the board of NDASA at that time, and trying to educate her in what and why and how we do things was always interesting. And we're still doing it today. We're still making an influence to the legislature. People say DOT knows what they're doing. They don't know what they don't know. And I think that's where it's so important that we get active in the legislature, the Senate, and any of the bills that are coming out. I think we need to at least be able to let our members know that something is changing and allow those members in those states to be able to vocalize why we want certain things.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you, like myself and many others listening to the podcast, have been called by those employees that are not only scared, but they don't know what to do. And so they're relying on us to understand this industry and to be able to give them the guidance that they need so that they can make a decision and a choice that's right for their situation. I've seen that so many times. What's been some of the responses that you've had to some of these employers when they've called you like that? Have you been able to give them the clarity that they're needing, or is it one of those things where you're just basically giving them the guidance to be able to go here or there to be able to get the answer that they're looking for?
As they say, it's better to teach somebody how to fish than give them the fish. So again, there's a lot of people that have joined the industry over the last 5-10 years that don't know the history, don't know why we do this. They're out to make money. And yes, you can make some money with this, but the biggest thing is we make a difference in people's lives every single day. Quick story, I was drug testing one of my employers, and a guy from high school came up, and he was called for a reasonable suspicion. And I said, what happened? Because we were friends in high school. And he said he was just driving and we had drank too much the night before and he shouldn't have been driving. And I said, where were you? And he told me, I said, you know what your sister would say, that you were driving where her kids were outside. She would not be very happy with that. And then he cleaned his act up. He got off the drugs and alcohol. And we saw each other off and on because he's continued to work for that employer.
Wow. And that's one of the things that's hard is when you do go into that place and you recognize somebody or you've had an association with them and you see the end result, why you're ending up being there. So it always makes that difficult. And to be able to do that with integrity is a very telling thing as far as how you value what it is that you do. And that it's not about us, like we were just talking about a little bit ago.
I think that's one of those things that are very important that everybody across the board need to understand is if we change one person's life and get them off of whatever they're doing that isn't healthy for them, we've made a difference in not only their life, but everybody else's life that they touch. I take that to heart, and I got many stories of those situations. But it's something that I think we all have to understand. We're part of a bigger problem, and we're able to help solve some of them.
Exactly. Very well said. Dean, in NDASA, in the time that you've been here, and just like with NDASA, NDASA values collaboration, inclusivity. So how do you plan to collaborate with other board members, stakeholders, even the broader membership to foster a cohesive and effective governance structure?
I think one of the things that I've done over the years, and again, helping with the collaboration and helping people out, is I've always said you need to cooperate. We all need to cooperate together, even though we have a competitor down the street that's doing the same thing we're doing. But we're not able to provide a service or the service that they want. We can send them to our competitor and say, hey, this guy can help you out better, or this guy is has less things to do than I do. Or you just ask them, hey, can you do a collection for me? And over the years, I've done that many times and tried to instill that cooperation of the industry. And we work for the client. We work for that employer. And whatever we can do to make that employer happy, they'll be happy with us. And I think that's one of the things that is so important, is to get out to the company, get out to the members, the industry and say, hey, we all know we're competitors, but we all have to help each other. We're all in the program for a reason. And it's the same reason, really. I have a LinkedIn group that we've got over 5,600 members, and it's just drug and alcohol testing. It allows them to have an opportunity to ask questions, collaborate, share articles, share training that's coming up. I watch the posts very closely. If there's somebody that's strictly advertising something that's not drug and alcohol related, I take it off, because people are there to get their questions answered. So that's very important. And I think NDASA has, and I've shown the collaboration when we started working on the DASA and NDASA merger. And I was a charter member of DASA. And so I had to really look at myself and what was good for the industry, how we were going to do that. And we've heard for years that it's very hard for employers, suppliers, vendors to have to go to pick and choose where they're going to go, what monies they're going to put to where. And so looking at what was best for the industry and working on the collaboration, working together, trying to figure out how to combine two associations, I think it was very good. I think we were all open to the idea of the collaboration and the cooperation, which shows our membership what we do and why we do those things. And I think moving forward, there are other organizations, associations, industries that we can collaborate with that will help them help their members, and it will help our association and our membership, because then we're working together instead of the competition.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very well said. I know that having both DASA and NDASA together has strengthened our industry quite a bit. We're able to have joint focus now. Everybody can become on the same page, be able to participate more fully, and to be having immense resources from both sides. It's truly been humbling for me to see how well that transition is taking place and how well the membership has embraced that. And then to have conversations with people, and I'm sure that you've had those conversations too, and they're like going, man, it's so nice to just have one place to be able to go and not feel like I'm betraying one to go with the other. And for one, that kind of made me feel bad that people felt that way, but it also showed me the conundrum that they had, that they really wanted to come over here, but they didn't want to portray what they were doing over here. And so you had that conflict that was going on. So it's so nice to be able to do that now and to be able to have the leadership that's just been on the same page and then wanting to continue to grow it. It's been a really great experience to see and witness. And you've been part of that. And so it's refreshing to be able to hear your perspective and to be able to let the membership know that you were feeling the same way. So that's a great thing. Dean, giving all the rapid considerations that we're having with technology and resources, and then we have regulations, it's changing a very revolving and rapidly growing landscape within the drug and alcohol screening industry. How do you, I think you just addressed a little bit of this, but how do you intend to stay informed and ensure that NDASA remains at the forefront of the industry for this innovation and the compliance that we're seeing coming down the road?
I think one of the things is you have to, they say you never stop learning. And 35 years in this industry, there's still things that I come up with. People do, people ask, and I've never heard that before. In fact, we had a lady come out of the restroom where she was providing a sample, and she had stripped down in there and came out stripped down. And the collector goes, have to be prepared for things like that. But attending those webinars, I watch a lot of your podcasts, go to webinars, read, and I've always pushed the idea of understanding the other side. I'm I have magazines that I get from the other side. High Time magazine's been around for many years, but it's interesting to see their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see what they are selling, pushing as far as the adulterants and those type of things. And I think it's very important that you have that in place, is that you're always there to learn. And however you can do that, I think it's a very important thing. Going to organizations, talking to people in different industries, just because you don't do oral drug or alcohol testing, you still should understand that, because one of your employers one day may say, hey, what about? And then at least you have the knowledge to be able to talk to somebody intelligently and at least give them enough information to have that, to help them where to go or to understand what their problem was. So I think it's important that no matter what it is, that everybody watches what goes on. And I think having a board that all is looking at that, and we're all from all different industries, I think that allows us all to bring together as a board and say, what's going on? What can we do? And what can we do for the membership?
Dean, I had a question for you. Your drug and alcohol testing forum on LinkedIn is incredible. You're very active in there, and there's always stuff there. I've posted, I belong to that group. Between you and Jan Corman in her group too, I get so much information and I learn so much. How long have you had that forum on LinkedIn now?
I believe I saw something, it popped in my head the other day, and I think it's 19 or early 20s. And it's been many years. I just felt as the industry needed a place to ask questions, get different opinions. And that always helps you understand things as well. And some people doesn't like something, but again, you want to know, you want to educate yourself. So I think it's very important. And like you said, there's all kinds of information there. Over the last couple of years, I've started to, and I've asked permission from some of the writers of other articles, books, magazines, if I can post their section on my group. And of course, they look at the group and say, yes. I've also have gotten a lot of things lately that are from the pro side of things and their spin on different things. And again, that helps us understand what our members are going through and what we need to look at for the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So kudos. I didn't get to bed until midnight last night because I was busy reading some things that you had posted. I would encourage people, and in fact, we'll have that in the notes, the show notes for this, a little bit about the forum so that people can get in there, because it's just so incredibly useful and valuable. It's a great tool. Dean, there's a lot of ethical considerations that play a significant role in the drug and alcohol screening industry. So my question to you is, how do you prioritize ethical decision-making, but at the same time ensure transparency and integrity in your role on the board of directors?
One of the issues that I've always bring up is, and I've always been told, if you don't have your integrity, what do you have? So you got to do the right thing. As they say, the right thing, no matter who's watching or who's not watching. And I think that's an important thing, that, we have to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it may not be the right thing for us. It's the right thing for the industry. So being able to make that difference between what's good for me versus good for the industry. And you go back to the merger. And I think it's so important that, and I've had to say this in the past, I will never sell my integrity. All of us have had to make a choice with a client, with a person, and I've lost clients because I've told them, no, I'm not going to do it the way you want it done. It's not compliant with the rules. And that helped me understand myself and make sure that I have that integrity. Being open to our membership is very important. And I know through the merger, both associations let our members know, and we heard good things and bad things, but we had to let them know what was going on. And I think it's so important that they know, as NDASA is a member-owned association, we have to let them understand, because they can help us learn. They can help us understand something a little bit better. I think being out there, telling people what's going on, NDASA has a lot of different educational opportunities, a lot of things that are coming out as to what's going on. We have the annual or the monthly newsletter that comes out. Keeping everybody informed, I think, is a very important part of any industry and any association.
This has been an incredible opportunity to have you on the show. It's been a great podcast, and I value your time and everything. I've got a couple more things I'd like to do with you. I've got one more question. And that question that I have for you is, I'd like to ask if you can share an example of a situation where you faced a complex challenge, or it could have even been a disagreement within a professional organization or even a setting like that. How were you able to navigate to achieve a positive outcome in that situation or situations?
Being I've been around for a couple of years, I have a few of those stories, but I think one of the things, I was going into a prospective client, and it was a family-run business, and we were talking, there's a home business, so we were talking across the kitchen table, and we were developing their drug testing policy for the company. And their punishment for somebody who tested positive was termination. Lo and behold, their son tested positive. Now, the employer dad doesn't want to fire his kid. And come to find out that it was a family business, so there was a written agreement between all family members that no family member could be terminated from that business.
Wow.
So now it's okay, you go back to integrity. You have, as a business owner, you have to have the integrity. You have to show your employees that you're going to do that no matter who's positive. So we had to decide how to get it accomplished. So after many hours of discussion, the son resigned and was hired the next morning. Okay. They could, and he was hired in a different position because he's no longer driving. So it was a way to work together for the end. And I think that's an important thing. Outside the industry, I've, unfortunately had to have some conversations with some friends, either as a pilot, I'm a commercial pilot myself, or as a truck driver. I hold my CDL as well. That there's a point in time that you should stop doing what you're doing for your safety, for everybody's safety. And if you can imagine a gentleman that's been driving for 25 years or flying for 25 years, they don't want to stop. That's all they know.
Exactly.
And so trying to get them to understand, realize that argument that they would have on themselves. And the other one is the merger. I hate bringing up the merger, but you talk about a complex challenge, disagreements, and that type of thing. And I'm sure it was on both sides. But again, what is the best for the industry? And you have to look at the other person, understand the other person's views. And all of these issues is understanding both sides of the topic so that you can make an informed decision. And over the years, I always say, everybody has an opinion in what happened. I say, believe 50% of what somebody tells you. And then the other 50% is in the middle somewhere. One has the right answer, the other one. So I think that's just one of the big things is to work together, educate yourself to the problems, educate yourself to whatever's going on, and do the best for whatever you're dealing with the driver and the pilot, what's best for them and their family, what's best for the industry, what's best for that company. And sometimes you got to put yourself out of that seat on the other side, look at what it is. The regulation says A, B, C. You can't do D, E, and F.
Yeah. One of the things that I feel is really important is understanding exactly what you just said, that you're going to be put into those situations. And I'm sure that you probably thought about how you would handle situations similar to that and going into it. It's very interesting. The merger's been a very life-changing for a lot of people. They've had to look at things a little bit differently, but then they found out that it wasn't as hard as they thought it was going to be.
Very true.
I think that's been the key thing with all of this. Dean, I started off this episode by saying how much I was grateful to have you onto this podcast. We've been talking about it for a while, and our ability to do it just hasn't been there until now. But I want to take a moment to acknowledge you for a moment. I talked to a lot of people about people that were coming on to the podcast that we were going to interview, and I mentioned that I had the opportunity to have you on. And one of the more frequent things that I heard from people was how you've been a mentor to a lot of people. And I needed to take a moment to acknowledge that and to tell you how grateful I am that we have somebody like yourself that has not only a passion, but a desire to serve and to do so selflessly. And I remember the first time you and I met, and I was taking one of your classes, and I was pretty new at it. I had background in police work, doing drug testing that way, but this was totally new for me. And I wasn't shy about it. And I went up there. And the thing that really impressed me when I talked to you was that, one, you listened to me. You let me talk your head off with everything that I had before you even said anything to me. You let me get it out. And then you looked at me and you gave me your answers. But what impressed me too is that you told me, you said, here are some other resources that you need to check just to make sure that you're comfortable with what I just said. And I was like, who does that? To be humble enough to say, I'm the guy with all the answers and this is what you do. That's not how you approached it. And it was so refreshing. And I think that's what really cemented my wanting to be a friend with you and to learn from you because of how you approach that. A lot of times people don't understand the impact that they make on other people, but it's very evident in the things that you've done, the experiences that you have, in the selfless ability to go and share and change people's lives. You've done this on LinkedIn with your drug and alcohol forum that you have. And as far as I know, you're not getting paid for that.
No.
And how many years have you done this? That is key. That's a passion. That is somebody that has a deep desire and love for what he does. And I just want you to know that it's not unnoticed and it's not gone unappreciated. So thank you for doing that for all of us. Dean, I think that it's going to be a very interesting time with NDASA with all the different things that we're experiencing. We have some high quality people that are running for the board of directors, and it's going to be a huge benefit for NDASA to have these individuals on the board, including yourself. So I want to wish you good luck, and I hope that things go well for you. And I know that at some point I'll have you back on the podcast because there's some things that I know that you would be an excellent guest to be able to expand on some things and explain it to our listeners. So I look forward to having you back on the show.
I'm definitely interested in doing that.
All right. Thank you, Dean. If there's anything else that we can do for you, let us know. But good luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.